Good.
I guess I gotta turn this thing back on so y'all can hear me. So kind of let me get set up here, but in the meantime, I want to say thank you. It is a blessing to be here today. It's been almost a year since I've been here. And I want you to know that you have been thoroughly missed. I miss your energy, I miss your love, I miss our Wednesday nights, I miss Sunday and just coming together and sharing in consciousness. You know, sharing this love, sharing this understanding that we all have about who and what God is. And so today I'm going to be talking about extraordinary knowing. And it's a little bit of a continuation of the message that I gave last night at the spiritual ceremony. And I thought to expand that a little bit just because it's good information. It's really good information. But I want to tell you a story first. And the story is a book. I got this copy from a book that I was reading called Extraordinary Knowing. So I was like, that's a good message. We can, break it all down. It was a scientist that wrote this book. Her name was Elizabeth Mayer. And if you know anything about scientists, a lot of scientists are not very, they don't believe in God. Well, it's not that they don't believe in God. They don't believe in things that you can't measure or things that you can't, physically touch or whatever. So they have a unique relationship. Some of them will tell you, I believe in a higher power. I just believe in call it God, right? So this scientist writes this book about extraordinary knowing because she had an experience. So she has an 11-year-old daughter, and her daughter started playing the harp when she was 6 years old. And so from 6 to 11, she became really good, and she got this custom-made harp that she loved, and she played in this huge theater out in Oakland, California in 1991. And somebody stole the harp. And so mom, now, this scientist, is like, does everything all parents do when their child loses something, expensive like that. File a police report, do a lost and found, put up notice, do rewards, did all of those things. And nothing became of it. There was even a CBS TV broadcast about it because this harp was that unique. And one of her friends came to her and told her and said, if you want to get this harp back, you should be willing to do anything to get it back. Do anything. And so she was like, I will do anything. What do you recommend? And he said, I think you should use a dowser. And so she's like, okay, what I know about a dowser is that they find water underground and they use 2 forks to find the water, locate the water. And that's not scientific, right? So she had absolutely no faith that this would really happen. However, she said she would try anything. And so she contacted the American Society of Dowsers, and they referred her to the president at that time. His name was Harold, and he lived in Arkansas. So she calls him and tells him her story, and Harold tells her, he said, give him it. Let me tell you if it's still in Oakland. And so she's like, over the phone, she's in California, he's in Arkansas. How is he going to tell me it's in Oakland? So he does this thing, and he comes back to the line, and he tells her, he was like, yeah, it's still in Oakland. And so she's like, okay. So he said, well, what I need you to do is send me a map of Oakland, and I'll tell you the exact coordinations of where it is. And so she's like, okay, I'll do it. But when she gets off the phone with him, she's in total disbelief because everything she believed to be true is being challenged, right? If I do this and I get the harp, I'm really happy. But if I get it, then I have to question everything I believe to be true about science, about life. And so a couple of days later, he gives her a call, and he said, well, the harp is in a second house on 11th Street and 10th Avenue. And so she doesn't know where this location is, but she gets the map and she finds it and she goes to that location. Well, she can't just go knock on the door and ask for it. They don't give it to her, right? Somebody stole it. So she calls the police and she tells them, hey, I got a tip that the harp is at this address. And so the police said, well, ma'am, that's not enough information to get a search warrant. And so she's like baffled because the police is telling her, there's nothing we can do. You know, the harp is gone. I'm sure it's been sold. It's not there. You know, we're closing this case. And so something in her is driving her. Something is in her is awakening her and telling her, you got to do something. You got to do something more. So she decided to create a flyer within 2-block radius of this location about the harp and a reward. So a couple of days goes by and she gets a phone call. Guy said, well, my neighbor showed me a harp, the same one you described, and I want your award if you would give it to me. And so she agrees. They go through this for about a week trying to negotiate because, of course, this person doesn't want to go to jail. So they don't want to be set up. But they finally meet at a Safeway at 10 o'clock at night, and they exchange the harp. And she gives him the reward. And at this point, she is in total disbelief. Because how did this dowser know the exact location of this harp? And he was in Arkansas. How did he know? And that is how it opened the door, because science wants to know, how do we know God is in us? How do we know? And so today, I want to talk to you about how do we answer that question? Like, what do we look at? What are the techniques that are used in order for us to do this? Because there are lots of people that use this technique. We have people that are doing tarot. We have people that are doing Reiki healing. You have psychics. You have injury. You have all these people that are connecting to this otherness that science says does not exist or cannot be observed or quantified. And so the question that they raise is, how do you know? How do we know that this is real? And so I'm going to start with the Bible. And the Bible says, the kingdom of God is within you. Have faith and don't doubt, and you can do these things and much more. So if it's within us, the next question you have to ask is, how do we tap into that? And so one of the quotes that I used last night was from Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind. And it says, man is a spirit, while God is the spirit. So man is an individual, while God is universal. And we can only operate in that space, right? So if we're operating in that space, what's happening is there is something wrong with our connection. We got some static on our line in our connection to God. So people who work in Reiki healing and they're able to move this energy, and people who are dowsers and psychic readings and they have this connection, they have a clear connection to utilize that God energy, right? And so what we have to do in order for us to tap into our extraordinary knowing, because they are no different than us. We have the same ability. We have the same potential to do the same things in our own personal lives. Is that we have to remove our static so that we can get tapped in, turned on, and figure out what it is that we're supposed to be doing and what it is that we're supposed to be learning and how we're supposed to come into our beingness. Because you can tell when you're not in your beingness when you're unhappy. When you are unhappy, you are not in touch with who you really are. You are separated from your source. And so Ernest Holmes said that God is in us as we are in God. The same essence, different degrees. So we have to understand the degrees, because the way we were born into this culture, we're taught that we're all the same, right? We're constantly battling this. We're all the same. Yes, we're all human, but we are not the same. I do not look like you, right? And you do not look like me. There are so many things that are different between us, and that is our degrees of differences as human beings. You have different sizes, you have different colors, you have different eyes. All of those are various expressions of God. Somebody made this gesture. You have different sizes. Oh, so all of those are the different degrees that we are, the different forms of expressions that we are as human beings. Another example I want to use is, let's say for instance, I had asked Russell to bring this, and I had another picture in my mind. So what I was thinking about this so if you had like a ruler, and we're just going to use this just so we can talk about the degrees. And this ruler was on a continuum that never ended, ever. And there is no end. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going, right? No end. So the degrees is all of us fall into this continuum somewhere. So there is no like vertical, horizontal. Which one is the up? Vertical.
Vertical.
Yeah, vertical. So the vertical one, there is no vertical like I'm down here and you're up here. It's more horizontal, where we're all on the same level, just at different degrees. And let me show you how that looks in our daily lives. So let's start with math. Paul and I just had this conversation yesterday, where formulas and understanding math on a continuum, I don't understand math the same level that Paul understands math. He's an engineer, he loves it. He gave me like this little formula and I was like,
Whatever.
I do not know that. That's my different degree of knowledge and awareness, right? So we have that in math, we have that in jobs, we have that in relationships. The love that we show one another is different in degrees. Right? You don't love your spouse the same way you love your children. You don't love your mama the same way you love your sister and your brother. We sometimes say we love everybody the same, but the reality is not. We love in degrees. That's just who we are. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way it is. And so when we understand that who we are in God is just a degree, a specific expression of God. We're not all that God is. We're just an expression, a part of it. And as human beings, we come here in this physical form to manifest that. We come here to get back in connection with that in physical form. And so another term that Ernest Holmes used was, we see our individual mind is in reality our identity in infinite mind. And it's an accumulation of our mental attitude. So what he's saying here is how you identify yourself is in relationship to your identity in the universe, source, God, whatever name you call him. I call it universe, you can call it whatever you want it. As the saying goes, it don't matter what you call me as long as you call me. So, in that relationship, because you're here sometimes where, and especially in my field, I'm always dealing with the question of what is normal. What is normal? Who defines normal? So the question for you is, who are you measuring yourself against? Who are you saying, I'm not good enough, I hadn't done enough, I hadn't been here, I hadn't been there? Who are you measuring against? Because if you're not measuring against your potential and your possibility that God said is able for you, then that's where the disconnect is. That's where the static is. Because you're using the wrong tool. And it's okay, because everything that you've done from the time you got here until now, is what you were supposed to do. It's part of your journey. And it's a part of your journey that as you begin to wake up, that's that saying that you hear that knowledge is power, right? And I hear that all the time, and it's like, is it really? Is it really power? When I changed professions and went into psychology, it's not really that knowledge is power. It's really, do you want to do the work? Because people have the knowledge. I can give you a step-by-step instruction on how to have a perfect life. But if you don't want to do it, it ain't going to happen. If you don't have the desire in your heart and in your mind and want it so bad that you're willing to do what she did, anything possible to get that heart back, it's not going to happen. If her relationship to that heart wasn't one that required her to step outside of her comfort zone and defy everything that she believed, she never would have got the heart back. The same thing happens like when I'm in therapy with people. That's why you just learn to listen. You have to figure out where you're comfortable at. You have to figure out what you're measuring yourself up against. What expectations that you've laid out based on what somebody else told you instead of in relationship to you and your source. Because you can't go further than that. Your whole life is going to be centered around your relationship with your source. And that's what Jesus meant when he said that man has inherent life within himself. The meaning of inherent life is creative life. We create our life. We just sung that song, and I thought that song was perfect. Because it says every thought you think, you're creating. You're creating a prayer. You're saying a prayer. A prayer is just a confirmation of what is. So if you're praying for healing, you'll get healing, but you're going to also have to be sick to continue healing. You can't have healing without sickness. But if you're praying for wholeness, and you're praying, and in your prayer for wholeness, you're praying that you're already there, that in spite of wherever I am right now, I am grateful that I have my eyes and I can see. I have my ears and I can hear. I have my mind and I can see. And all the other parts, all the other cells in my body, they are whole and complete. They have everything that they need to operate. I just need to step into it. And so, extraordinary knowing is not just about knowledge. It's about stepping into your power. It's about understanding your relationship to God or your source. Albert Einstein stated, everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking it is stupid. Why is that? Because fish weren't designed to live in a tree. They were designed to live in the water. And we were not designed to live outside of our universal source. And so you're not stupid, you're not weak, you're not incapable. You just have a little static in your line that you need to clear up. Give it a little bit of attention so that you can get clear about where you're going and why you want to go there. Because sometimes our reasons for why we want to be here instead of be there, instead of where we are, it's muddy. It's muddy. It's not clear. So we don't have the power of whatever our intention is behind us because we don't fully understand why we want to go where we want to go. So one thing about this static that shows up in our life, it comes in many forms. It's just not you. Trust me. This is a collective effort. It takes all of us to make us to where we are today. And so the static shows up in culture. If you're born into a particular race, I'm African American. We have it hard in the United States. Can nobody deny that. But guess what? We have to deal with it. You have the government. You have education. I moved from Texas to New Orleans, and the education system there is totally different. And I was just baffled. And it's amazing that, it's not amazing, that's not a good word to use for that particular concept. It's a disgrace that one area has great education and another area does not. How is that so? It's all funded by the same people. You have family, friends, because you have them that are around your family. When you're born into your family tell you who you're supposed to be. How many people have you met are upset, not happy with their life because their mom or their daddy told them what they was going to do for a living? And they're stuck. And they can't, because of how they were born and how they were molded, they can't buck against that system. So those are some of the things that will keep static in your life. Break your connection to the source and keep you from becoming who you really and truly are, or who you really and truly want to be. So Albert Einstein also stated that if you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. I was like, oh, that's really cute. So here is extraordinary knowing in its simplest term. You are an expression of divine. And to the degree that you understand your relationship with Source is the degree of love, peace, and happiness you're going to have in your life. Simply put. There are a lot of books that will help you discover and develop your connection. But at the end of the day, your connection is as strong as your belief in your Source. And your willingness to practice using your inherent power. Because you didn't get where you are today by making one decision. You made a lot of decisions. You did a lot of things. And so you practice yourself into the state of being that you're in right now. And so you have to practice your way out of it if you don't like it. If you love it, keep doing it. If you don't like it, change it. Roger? That's a military term. You like Roger that? So, as I get ready to close this completely out, I just want to say that it's been very interesting waking up and being conscious. Because you have to balance the duality in life. You know, and we have so many narratives that tell us how we got here and where we're going and the state of affairs and all of these things. And you have to decide what the truth is. Because for a long time, I thought there was just one absolute truth. But in actuality, there is no absolute truth. Truth is subjective. So I would encourage you to go within, connect to the power within you. Ask the questions and go within. And you're going to see the opposite things show up in your life. You're going to see pain, you're going to see suffering. But when you know that you know that you know that you are connected to something higher, something greater, it will be good. I always use my past experiences to say, that was hell when I was going through that. That hurt. But guess what? I got over it. I got through it. And I will get through this. So whenever those little voices in my head try to tell me those narratives, oh, you ain't good enough, or you ain't this, and you ain't that, I just go to it and I say, listen, I am an expression of the divine. And I chose to come here to have this physical experience so that I could reconnect to the source. I wanted to be here, and I wanted to experience what it was like. Because, you know, as universal source, you're out there, you're full of love. You don't have or experience the emotions you feel in a physical body. I said, so, I know that this is temporary. And I know that the good, the love, the peace, the harmony, and the beauty in life is coming. I see it. I can feel it. So, take a seat. Next. And keep it moving. And I have to keep telling the same story over and over until that course, it finally dwindles down and it never pops its head up anymore. Because I put it in its place. I replaced it with something else. Now that's something we can do spiritually, but it's also something that we teach in psychology. When you go to therapy, they tell you to change your behavior and change your thoughts. And the only part that's missing is your connection to something higher. So I would encourage you to just get in touch with yourself. Figure out what it is that you want based on your terms. You can have anything you want. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. You can create it. You just have to believe it. And if you can believe it, you can receive it. That's it. Simple as that. Thank you.